Laura Ingraham apparently does not want migrants, does not understand why migrants leave their homes to apply for political asylum in this country. Just the other day, we had a story of police officers. These are police officers who are trained, carried guns in El Salvador, who have fled the country because of the violence. Now, of course, as a police officer, you are in one of these countries, you are obviously more in the line of fire. But the reason we know that tens of thousands of these people annually try and cross the border into the United States is because they are fleeing their countries. And anybody who has even the slightest relationship with the history of U.S. intervention in these countries understands that at the very least, maybe the United States is not the exclusive reason, but it is a major reason why these countries are so destabilized and have become so violent as they have become. So here's Laura Ingraham completely showing the empathy and compassion that it makes America great.
Girls are being abused, raped, and in some cases trafficked as part of these caravans, and it is despicable what is happening to these young people. Congress needs to get its head out of the sand and stop this madness once and for all. If someone crosses the border illegally, with rare exception, they should be turned back immediately. Family units or people posing as family units would not make this dangerous trek once word spread in their home country.
Pause it. This narrative has been proven false over and over again. This past month, we've seen a record number. I don't know if it's a record number, but certainly a major uptick, right? Like, 'cause the actual numbers are much lower than they have been in past years and in past decades. But this past month has been, I think, the highest number of migrants coming to the border, maybe in a year or two. This is on the heels of the stories that supposedly were to filter back home, that they are separating children and parents. And there are some people who actually think that the reason why there's been an increase is because of the word of the wall, and that coyotes and smugglers are telling people, you better go now, you won't have a chance to go. Which, of course, is exactly the same thing that you've experienced if you went to go buy a house over the past couple of years, where your broker says, I would do it now because rates are going to go up. And which really has no bearing on the reality of the situation. So we know that the reason why people are trying to cross the border is because no matter how dangerous that trek is, where people die, no matter how much they realize they're putting themselves in the hands of smugglers who are not nice people, no matter how much they've heard of the dangers that their daughters, their sons, their mothers, their fathers may be subjected to in making that trek to the border, their situation as it exists now in their home country is worse. So there is no dissuading these people by saying it's bad in the United States. It's just not possible. It has been a failed policy, including under the Obama administration, which tried to do the same thing. They didn't use the same harsh tactics, but they tried to do that same thing. You can Google Jay Johnson going down to Central America and trying to spread the word that you're not going to get in. They spent money on an ad campaign down there. That does not change the material experience of people in their home countries, and therefore is not going to change their behavior. But Laura Ingraham completely disingenuously makes this case, because instead of saying there are rape in these caravans, there's danger in these caravans, and so what we should do is when they cross the border, we should put them right back in that dangerous situation as a lesson to teach everybody that it's going to be dangerous. This is just absurd. This is an absurd. If we use this policy, okay, with things like, hey, Christmas trees are dangerous. Those lights, they're dangerous. So what we're going to do is we're going to let houses burn down. And if enough people lose their houses and maybe some people die, word will spread around that you're going to be really cautious with Christmas tree lights. That's the idea. That we would have a policy like that is so inhumane that it would be laughable. Yet here she is on national television echoing the Republican line that that's the policy we should have. We need to show these people the horrors that they're going to, instead of alleviating the horrors, we need to make these horrors even more widely publicized and explicit so that they don't try, so that the horror they're escaping from is considered less of a horror than the one that we could offer them.
Take this dangerous trek once word spread in their home country. Congress should pass this law. If you want to apply for asylum, that's fine. But you should do so in the safety of your home country. Or, as is beginning to happen now, once you're in the United States and you declare, you should be sent to Mexico until your case comes up for hearing.
Okay. Why would you seek asylum from a place where you have safety? Definitionally.
To take over the U.S. and wreck it. Like, this is some Steve Bannon Camp of the Saints shit about these like invading brown hordes. They're like tricking us with their sob stories.
People seek asylum from places where they're not safe. That is definitional.
Yeah, actually, in fact, if you didn't interfere with and cause so many problems in these places, most people in general would like to live relatively close by where their families are and where they grew up.
Yeah, they don't come
These
here for the
people don't care
amazing
about
culture.
their families.
Right, of
we're going to
course.
prove it. We're going to
Right.
put them in cages and see. It's not cages. It's really just like steel boxes.
That's an incredible formulation, though. Go to the safety of where you're fleeing for your life.
Right. It's unbelievable. And incidentally, the Republicans controlled the entire government for 2 years. If they wanted to change the asylum laws that have existed in this country for decades, they could have.